Hello and welcome to another episode of the Chrissie Mayr podcast. We are on iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, and SoundCloud. And if you're listening to us right now on iTunes, please go and leave a 5-star review. I read the best reviews every week, so long as they are 5 stars. I'm doing some stand-up. I've done a lot of really great shows in Texas, Florida, Oklahoma City, Wisconsin. So I've really been enjoying my time traveling around the country. Some upcoming stand-up gigs that you can come to. I'm going to be in Cleveland, Ohio at Hilarities on June 3rd, and then Morris Plains, New Jersey, doing I think it's called Tiff's Ale House or the Dojo of Comedy. That's June 12th. And then June 18th, Comedians of the Compound are going to be in Bethel, Pennsylvania at Pat Garrett's Amphitheater. For details and tickets, go to my website, chrissiemayr.com. Quick shout out to our sponsor, Cushy Dreams. They are my go-to for all things CBD related. It's been a very anxiety-inducing last year and a half. And for me, I know what helps me with my anxiety is a little bit of CBD. Cushy Dreams offers a full lineup of premium smokable CBD. They specialize in extraordinary CBD-rich hemp flower, also known as bud in cans, and pre-roll CBD joints. Looks, smells just like high quality weed, but it's not. It's not going to get you high. You can enjoy all the health benefits of CBD without getting high. There's under 0.3% THC in all of these products. It helps me sleep. It's helped me with general anxiety overall. It's cannabis that ships directly to you, and it's legal in all 50 states. Join the men and women who are sick of vapes and gummies and want to smoke their CBD. They come in different indica sativa blends like Energy, Hustle, Relax, Create, Dream, Peace. So if you want to feel a little bit more up, maybe you do an Energy, or if you want to relax before bed, do like a Dream or a Peace. I like it. I just have a couple pulls and I feel relaxed just in a few minutes. So I know it's really worked for me. Go to cushydreams.com, KUSHY, and get some high quality CBD bud at the checkout. Use promo code CMP to get 20% off every order, first, second, third, etc. I think also free shipping. And smoke your CBD, guys. Woo! I am so excited to have this guy on the podcast today. I have been such a fan for a while. I think he's incredibly wise, incredibly brave, I think, to say the things that he says in 2021. And he's just the breath of fresh air that I feel like we all need to hear. A lot of his videos and his wisdom, it kind of sounds like the dad you never had, in terms of just telling folks what they need to hear. He's a talk show host. He has his own radio show, and he's the host of Fallen State TV. He does it all. He's a more than a triple threat. Jesse Lee Peterson, how are you?
All is well. Thank you, Chrissie, for having me on. I appreciate that.
Oh, I appreciate you so much. I've been a fan for a couple months now, and I think there's so much to talk about. I want to know, because it seems like your Christianity or your religious beliefs go so hand in hand with your feelings on like what's happened with society and the kind of I guess the dissolving of the family. I mean, there are still like plenty of nuclear families, but I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to say is it seems to me like I remember I'm 37. I grew up in the 90s. We didn't seem to be as obsessed with race, and it didn't seem like racism was such a huge problem like it is now. And I'm wondering, like, what do you think has been the biggest change, or what has helped this become, an issue that our culture is so obsessed with?
Well, this phony idea of racism, it really started with the civil rights movement. And by the way, the civil rights movement was the worst thing that ever happened to Black people. They have only gotten worse instead of getting better. And it has divided the country more than anything else, rather than uniting the country. Because I believe that Martin Luther King's idea was to unite the races rather than divide them in the way that it has happened. But when Dr. King was assassinated, that all changed, because Jesse Jackson and all the other fake civil rights leaders, so-called leaders, they sold the Blacks over to the Democratic Party. And they made a deal that we'll sell, because for the most part, Blacks were Republicans back then. And so they sold the blacks to the Democratic Party under Lyndon B. Johnson. And they said, okay, we'll sell them to you as long as we could be their leaders. And they agreed. And it's just been downhill since. They destroyed the family, the black family, and then they became the leaders, and they've been guiding them in the wrong way to go ever since. That's why you shouldn't have a leader, except for God. But so what happened was they started using the word racism, and they noticed that white people were afraid of that word. It's just a made up word. It's not real. No such thing as racism, sexism, homophobia, Islam, Allah Abbaism,
Islamophobia, all that.
yeah, Islam, white supremacism or anti-Semitism.
You think none of these exist?
Not at all. Our battle is a spiritual battle. It's a warfare between good and evil. And we have evil ruling the world, and good dwells in us. It's a brand new reality within us. And so it's not about color. It's not about female. It's about this warfare between good and evil. So you have some people on the side of evil and others who are on the side of good. But Jesse Jackson and others saw that white people were afraid of that word, that they wouldn't defend themselves. They wouldn't say, no, I'm not against you. I don't care about your race. White people cower down and they start catering to the blacks, hoping that the blacks would get over it, but it's only gotten worse because black people have, and not all, but most have seen that they can get what they want from the whites as long as white people are on the run, afraid of that word. And so that's why you hear it all the time now about everything, because white people have refused to stand up and defend themselves in the right way about that word. And so until white people say, no, that's not true, you need to return to family. You need to return to character. You need to return to responsibility. It's not going to get better because black people are getting worse now because they're not overcoming their anger that starts in their home. And instead, they think that they're getting something, affirmative action, reparation, intimidation. We really have South Africa in America right now. And if white people don't start speaking up, they're going to take your land without compensation. And it's just going to get worse and worse. No such thing as racism, Chrissy. It's about the character of the person, the spirit of the person, good versus evil.
Right. Because I know anytime I've seen a horrible like video online or any kind of attack and people say, oh, it's about racism. I'm like, I think it's I can definitely see your point. It's like the person who is attacking, like they're sick, like they need to find God. They need to like work out their own issues, like whether it is race related for them or not. I think it does help to see it in terms of the individual yes. choices instead of like, well, this is a problem that everybody has. And just when, today, I guess, this week marks the 1 year of George Floyd's death. And I remember all these books that came out after that were basically like required reading, almost like we were all in a college class, the White Fragility book. There were so many others. And it's like, you have to accept that as a white person, you are racist. To deny it is to like not be living in reality. And it just seems like unless you go along with this like cuckoo narrative, you're a terrible person. Yeah. And I think a lot of white people are very confused and maybe they are feeling intimidated or worried and they just don't want to start a fight or get a conflict or get fired from their job. So like when you say like white people need to stand up for themselves or like not really fight back sounds like the wrong word, but like what can white people say? I mean, it sounds like such a strange question, but or anybody.
No, I'm not your enemy. No, you're wrong. You need to be responsible for yourself. Why can't they just say that? And that's the beginning of changing the situation. And I never imagined. I grew up on a plantation down in Alabama. I live in Los Angeles now. I came here in 1968. But I grew up on a plantation. I grew up under Jim Crow laws. I never heard the word racism, not at any point, any time. And at that time, black people were immoral people. They believed in God for the most part. They got married. Their father and mother were good examples for their children. And they taught us how to work, how to be responsible. And that at 18, especially the males, you have to leave. You're going to leave here at 18. I'm like, and my grandparents used to always remind me growing up at 18, you're out of here. I'm like, where am I going? I don't know. And I don't care.
Wow.
We're going to train you to be responsible. And at 18, I left home. I went out, moved to California, got a job and bought a house and did all kinds of things. I went through a lot because I was learning as a young person. But I'm so glad for those difficult times because it made me the person I am today. And I never imagined that one day in the United States of America, a thug would be held up as a hero. George Floyd was an unemployed drug addict who had been in prison before, who was accused of trying to use fake money to buy something at a store. And he is dead because he is dead. He didn't care about his own life, right? And today they're having his family to the White House to celebrate a thug, a drug addict. What kind of example is that for other young people who don't have decent parents to tell them that's wrong? What is that saying to other young Black kids who don't have fathers and mothers to guide them? They're going to believe that it's okay to be a thug. They're going to believe it's okay to get high and not work and go to prison, and that the folks going to recognize this is not the way that we should be in America. We got to stop this.
I feel like it's, almost like if you are a thug, well, it's not your fault. Like you are simply a product of your environment. Like it is, maybe, and I don't feel like kids don't have control over whether their dad sticks around or not. But I guess if you are, like, what do you say to people who are like, well, I grew up with a single mom and I didn't have the right mentors and, I'm dealing drugs because this is what I had to do to get by.
That's just excuse making. I understand that mothers don't know how to raise children. I understand that part. But at some point in life, you have to get to know yourself, especially as adults. And you have to take responsibility for your life so that if and when you do get married, you can pass down different values to your children. You cannot afford, if you want to be strong in life, period, you cannot afford to have excuses in your life. And I've noticed that anyone who has excuses are very weak. They don't have a relationship with God. Satan is their daddy, and they have a bunch of excuses and blame about their own failure. It's mind-blowing to see that. They have to overcome that.
As somebody who was out of the house at 18, I'm sure failing a lot, learning a lot of hard lessons, how does it make you feel to see now? It's like, especially, I mean, I took a long time to move out of the house. I think I was 26. Which felt too long, but I just like, I think I was maybe making, like, I didn't have a good job. Like I ended up having to move in with like a bunch of roommates in like New York City. But I was staying behind. I don't know. I just feel like it's worse for like men who keep living at home. Like
absolutely.
And I feel like I have friends who are guys who stay at home and they're like well into their late 20s, maybe early 30s. And it's like treating their mothers like the assistant, like order this, and this for me, by the way. And I just feel like you don't like appreciate so much until you are standing on your own 2 feet, paying for all of your bills, all of your food, making all of your meals, or buying them.
Any parent that allows their sons, especially their sons, to stay home past 18 don't love their parent. Don't love their children. They hate their children. And there are many cases where mothers keep their sons at home. They'd rather put their husbands out before they put their sons out of the house.
But that's strong. Those are strong words, Jesse, to say like that the mothers hate their kids by letting them stay at home. Because
if they love them, they will bring them to the point of 18, training them how to be responsible while growing up, teaching them to be responsible at 18, because common sense says that the man, in order for him to really, really grow, he needs to go out and deal with life. And that's what love is. That's what my grandparents had for me. They had love for me and my mother, their other children. And so, but parents today, especially mothers, they're horny for their sons. And so
horny for their son.
If you notice, if a son should escape the mother, move out, the mother call him every day. She emailing every day. Where are you? What you doing?
There's a lot of that.
if you start dating, they're jealous of the girl that you date. They want to be all involved in it. They're mad at the girl as though, they're the guy. And then if let's say you do get married and you move to Hawaii, but while growing up, the mother said, I don't like Hawaii. I would never live in Hawaii, right? And so the son said, oh, good. I'm glad you know this. I'm going to move my family to Hawaii. All of a sudden, the mother said, oh, I think I love Hawaii. And she'll come there and destroy your family. She will hate the in-law because she's jealous of the son. She's horny for her own son. That's why she would put her husband or boyfriend out of the house before she would with the son. And she would find ways to keep him there. She would make him feel guilty. She would make him feel like, oh, I'm your mother. You got to take care of me and all that. That's not love. That's hate.
Wow. I mean, I definitely know I've met some guys where like, yeah, the moms are a bit helicoptery. And I just think back to like I have an older brother, so he was like the only son. And like, I don't know. And there's definitely something about like, oh, you're my boy. Like, I don't know if it's because he was I don't know if my mom was horny for my brother, but she definitely treated him differently than like me or my sister. Yeah. And like, it's almost, he could do no wrong growing up. He'd be beating up on me and I'd be like, nobody would believe me. And I just feel like, yes, he was a great student and Eagle Scout, like great father, right now. And great guy.
Chrissie, if you notice, those type of guys end up marrying women just like their mothers. They get married to because they hate their mothers. Really, they're angry at their mothers. So whomever you become angry at control you. You become like whomever you're angry at. And so these guys, they end up dating or marrying women that just like mama. And so their woman become their mother, and they become the boy because they never got over the mother. And
right, they're just looking for a substitute, like the next person to like pick up their socks and make, I mean, yes, like there are women that love to do laundry and love to cook and love to do all like the feminine roles, but like I agree, there does need to be a like push out of the nest time where you really like bang around and figure out certain things that you can't learn unless you're living on your own.
And until they overcome their mother by forgiving, they have to go to their mother and say, hey, I'm sorry for resenting you, for turning me away from my father, for imposing your will on me. The woman will always be their God because of resenting their mother. The women are the men's God, and it's hard for them to deal with God. But when they forgive their mothers, God will forgive them because most of the mothers are not going to admit that they were wrong. The hardest thing in the world for a woman to do is to admit that she's wrong. She will send you to hell before she says she was wrong. She want to blame the father. She want to blame you. She'll blame everyone. So that's why God has it set up. Go and forgive, and I will forgive you. Don't ever ask for forgiveness. Apologize for resenting, and God will forgive you. And then love your father. And that's what it means when God said that there will come a day when I return the children to the fathers and the fathers to the children. So you return to your father by forgiving him for not protecting you from your mother. Then you get your identity back. God will guide you and you will have an amazing life. But until you're born again of the Father, return to the Father, you're only going to get worse in life instead of better.
Do you feel like the reverse is true? Like I was in therapy for a little bit and I learned that I was like, growing up, I was upset with my mom for essentially like not protecting me from my dad. Cause like he had a temper and I feel like he just spanked me. Like, I don't think I've asked my brother and sister, but like he had a temper and like, one time threw a chair in my general direction. Like it didn't hit me. Everything's fine. But like, that's what I kind of realized later on in life through therapy, like that my mom never really like stood up for me to him or whatever. And everyone kind of tiptoed around dad. And this point that I'm about to make, I was listening to an episode of your show and it was so interesting. It was what you were saying before, you become who you resent. So yes. Do you feel like there is, when things are out of balance, let's say if a boy resents his mother, that has a certain effect, or if a girl like resents their father, like, do you feel like these are stereotypical, like issues?
Exactly. If a girl resents her father, she will become insecure and doubtful, anxiety, depression, suicidal thought. She will live a life of hell instead of peace. Because what she doesn't realize while growing up is that I can guarantee you, your father loved you, It's just that he couldn't deal with your mother. He was married to his mother.
Ooh,
It's,
yeah. I feel like they should have broken up. I think
yeah,
I think he was very resentful of having to be in that relationship, I think.
absolutely, because he was married to his mother. He became, he became attracted to what he hate. He resented his mother.
Mm.
So every woman he got involved with is the mother.
Oh man, that's so interesting because he would talk about all the time, like, and he's German, so like, my grandmother, like his mother, well, Austrian, whatever. Not like this doesn't matter at all, but like his parents got divorced at a time, like the dad divorced the mom at a time where nobody was getting divorced, and then his dad ended up like getting mixed up in a like the Mooney cult, you
Yeah.
know. So I think my dad didn't like that my mom had dealt with so much shit, I guess, or was taken advantage of or divorced. I don't know what kind of point I'm making, but I think I'm seeing like, oh, there's a pattern of dysfunction.
The one thing I want to say to you and to all who are watching and listening, if you want to be free of uh, a messed up mindset, illogical mindset, up and down, makes you feel good. And then as soon as you feel good, it makes you feel bad. Now that you feel bad, it makes you feel good. Then you want to do it. After a while, want to jump into the ocean, right? The way to overcome that, Chrissy, you got to forgive your mother for whatever she did to you. Hey, I'm sorry for resenting you. She couldn't help herself. And if she admits she's wrong, that's fine. If she doesn't, that's fine. You forgive her for resenting her. And then God will forgive you and forgive your father for whatever he did because he couldn't help it. You would never know anxiety. You would never know insecurity. You would never have fear. You would never have doubt because God will give you a logical mindset. He would take away the illogical mindset and give you a logical mindset, and life would be amazing. But you got to forgive because it's a spiritual deal. God is a spirit, and you are a spirit inside of a body created in the image of him. So you got to return to the Father just by forgiving him and the mother so you can be free.
Of course, like your parent and everyone's parents are only doing the best job that they
All
can at the
people.
time with with their own tools. It's like, yeah, your parents are raising you to a certain point, but then that's the job of adulthood is you have to raise yourself the rest of the way and examine your patterns, fill in your own gaps.
Absolutely. And that's what's wrong with Black people. It's not about race. It's not about color. It's about they come from evil mothers and weak fathers. And so that
That's a
anger,
broad statement. I mean, do you
but 100% true.
wow.
100. 100 plus 1% true. And if they go and forgive their parents for failing them, life would change just like that. Because just look at what we have given them already. We've given them, they wanted way back when the civil rights movement started, they wanted to be able to go into the white people businesses and have lunch and breakfast, whatever they wanted, right? We gave them that. They wanted to live in the white people neighborhoods. We gave them that. They wanted a civil rights law, something dumb like that. We gave them that. Then they wanted affirmative action. We gave them that. And then they wanted the white woman. Remember, it was every Black man felt like he had to have a white woman. And
The stereotype is like, yeah, if she's bigger, like that's the whole
yeah.
stereotype. If you're overweight.
And so we gave them the white woman. And it still hasn't been enough for them. Now they want affirmative action. I mean, reparations. Now, and then they're going to want your land because they are angry, they are evil, and you cannot solve a spiritual problem with physical things. They have to go and drop that anger, forgive, so that they can have peace, and then they can work on their own life. It's not about white folks. White folks have nothing to do with the condition of Black people. They're just using the Blacks because the purpose of most Black people on earth today is to destroy, not to build. They are cursed, and so their purpose now is to be used for destruction. I can't name one place in America where majority of Blacks live and rule, and you want to live there. It's nothing but hell.
What do you
They
mean by
would,
cursed, though? I mean,
meaning that their lives are of evil. They have no peace because they don't love God anymore. And anyone who loves Satan, your life is cursed because you have no peace. And so they have no peace. And rather than returning to the Father, to God, they're trying to blame others and get material things. And if we gave them America, let's say that Black people say, you know what, white folks, if you just let us have the United States of America, then we'll be fine. And white folks said, oh, okay, y'all can have it. You can have, I'll just leave my house, leave the banks, you can have everything. In 10 years, America will become a ghetto, and then they would try to move to the new place where white folks have moved to. Well, because they have no character.
I mean, that sounds like a really broad statement. Like,
but
I'm sure you get a ton of shit for saying that.
I mean, but I'm telling the truth because I love all people, and love conquers all. And I'm trying to point them back to self. Get to know yourself. Stop looking at other people. Then you will see what I'm talking about. But as long as they caught up in their blackness and all that crap they're into, they're going to only get worse generation after generation. And it's going to divide this country like nothing before, right? It's already doing it. And there's nothing white people can do to make them happy. They got to overcome themselves. And I want to ask, can you name one location in America where it's controlled by majority blacks and you would just love to live there?
I don't know. I mean, I haven't really been everywhere. Gosh, I don't.
It doesn't exist.
I don't know. I'm only really thinking about like, yeah, maybe Texas or Florida, but I don't know. I don't know if I can answer that fairly because I haven't been everywhere.
It doesn't exist in America today. When I was growing up, it existed. Black people under Jim Crow law bought land. They got educated. Those that wanted to go to college or they had trades. They treated white people and everybody the way they would like to be treated because they understood it was a spiritual battle. I had a aunt who got married and she expired recently. And they had something like 18 or 19 kids.
Whoa.
Under the Jim Crow law. But they owned land and all of the children went to college. And they're doing very well in life now. They bought homes. My brothers and sisters bought their own home when they left home. We wouldn't talk all this crap. We knew it was good and evil. It wasn't about the white man. It was about right versus wrong. If black people were to return to that, they'll be fine. But right now they're cursed and they're blaming others for it rather than looking at themselves and inside of their homes.
Do you think the biggest problem is like a lack of self-responsibility or a lack of having God in their life, or it sounds like a combination of all of it?
It's a lack of God. Most black people today do not believe in God. Now they hoop and holler and sing about it and run up and down the church aisles and carry on. But that's just like being at the club the night after Saturday night, the morning after Saturday night. It's just more of club dancing. But they do not believe in God. So they need God in their life. They need a father and mother to guide them. They need to learn to work and be responsible. And once they become adults, they need to continue that, have love and not hate. Blacks have no love. They only have hate. And that's why they are suffering. They're suffering more than any other race because they have no love.
And what do you say to folks who say, well, there would be more like black men in their homes if it wasn't for institutionalized racism and more black men being incarcerated and more black men being in jail or caught up in drugs, That's
not true either. There will be more black men in the home if the fathers understood this battle that's going on with he and his wife or the kid's mother. And they stood between the mother so she couldn't pass her anger down to the children. Then you wouldn't have that. But that anger starts in the home. Any male, and I don't care what color he is, any male, and I don't care how old he is, any male that has anger is a woman. He's a female. It's not normal for male to have anger. Men are logical, women are illogical. And that's what...
I agree. There is a chaos element to being a woman, and we do get emotional.
Yeah. And that's why you're supposed to love your father, and he's supposed to have a logical mind so you can come out of the hell of your mother. And so...
Did your mom listen to when you say this?
Well, she expired recently, but when I first started saying it, she didn't really understand it. She didn't like it. And then when I went and forgave her, she finally understood to the point that she apologized to my brothers and sisters for what she had done.
Wow.
And whenever I would go home to visit from LA to Indiana, my father and my mother would want to have family meetings so I can show my brothers and sisters how to overcome.
Hmm.
So we became really good friends. My father, my mother. I was no longer their child. I was no longer their baby. I'm an individual adult. And so they started treating me that way. But I know that they love me very much because I overcame the anger I had for them.
Wow. It's interesting because I know that I forget where I heard this, but like people have kids for all sorts of different reasons. And a lot of times, like if you don't address your own issues, like they can play out again through your kids and you can
Yeah,
kind of pass on your damage, like your anger, your
100%.
worldview.
Because you become like your parent and it's get worse from generation to generation to generation. But if you overcome that anger, you pass down love to your children that come from God, not mama's love, because women don't have love. The love
What?
that
Come on.
the love that women feel is an emotional thing, and that emotion comes from anger. And it's a fake imitation of what real love is. Real love has no feelings. It sees what's right and it does the right thing. It doesn't judge. It doesn't hold anything against anyone. It understands what's going on and it tries to direct you in the right way. It's not jealous and envious and all that kind of stuff. And there's no feeling. It's a light unto your feet. But mother's love is of darkness and it's nothing but destruction. If you notice, anyone who has mother love is out of control. They're filled with anxiety and worry and suicidal thought.
Hmm.
They're lonely. They're empty. Their mind are racing up and down all the time. They don't have a solid mind because they have mother's love, which is a fake love that comes from hate.
So you're talking about the kind of mom that's like overbearing and I mean it's not like all mothers' love is bad, right? I mean it's
All mother's love is bad. No such thing as a good. I'm talking about the kind that's overbearing,
Hmm.
that carry on, the quiet, silent one that seems to be really nice and smothery. Those that cater to their sons and sometimes their daughters. I'm talking about the ones that read the Bible and praise the Lord and know the scripture. I'm talking about those females who have become preachers and those with degrees. It all hate and not
Hmm.
love. It's
Well,
all
that's
ego.
it's very interesting because I remember like a big issue I had to overcome with my mom. She just passed away like a few years ago, but I started after she died, I started to unpack our dynamic. And I often felt like if I wasn't around or constantly visiting her or like constantly on the phone, that like I was like her kind of not that her reason for happiness, but that it was my job to keep her spirits up. And if
Yeah.
she even growing up, if she had a fight with my dad, like, oh, I can make her laugh, like, which is great because I ended up going into comedy for it and seeing seeing a strength there. But it was taxing to feel like I'm responsible for her
And you
emotional
were not.
well-being.
Yeah, that's what they do. They make the kids feel guilty. I brought you in this world. I took care of you.
I'll
Your
take you
daddy
out.
didn't do anything. I gave you this and I did that. And they're trying to make you feel guilty so that when you do become an individual, adult and go out on your own, they want you to feel like you're responsible for them. They want to move in and die in your home. They want you to
That sounds
they,
terrible.
they want you to show up for every Mother's Day, every birthday. It's like they make you feel guilty. And the only reason you can feel guilty is that you resent them for making you feel that way
Hmm.
because you don't owe them anything. You didn't ask your father and mother lay down and make a baby and I'll be your investment. You are not an investment, but she
Hmm.
makes you feel that way. And it comes more from the mother than it does the father. Fathers tend to not care that much. They'll tell you, go on, live your life, leave that
Yeah.
girl alone, blah, 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 right? But the mothers, because of the Satan is their daddy, they're very they're very insecure, and so they
Hmm.
try to make the world rotate around them so that they can feel better about themselves. But it doesn't work because you can never satisfy them.
Wow. I remember I was listening to an episode of your show and you were talking to this 19-year-old boy who was struggling with being gay. And this is where I first heard you talk about this idea of you become who you resent. And you said being gay is your mother's spirit taking over.
Yes. What
That's pretty, I mean, let's unpack that because that's pretty interesting.
That's deep. So what happened is when these boys are growing up, once again, the mother imposed her will on them. And as kids, it's too much because it's evil. It's too much for the kids to handle, even the girls too. But that's why you have lesbians and everything. They're horny for their mothers, but since they're not going to have sex with mama, they find lookalikes with the same women with the same spirit.
See, I always thought that was because they had an issue with men, like a bad relationship maybe with their dad, and that's why they grew up to be more attracted to women. But you're saying no, it all comes down to the mom,
right? And because in those incidents where they do have a bad relationship with the father, they hate their father with their mother hatred. They resent him, and they don't
because you grow up hearing like your mom, like my mom was always in our ear about the things that our dad wasn't doing, and
that's
like,
too much for you to handle. So she overwhelmed you with her ideas, not your own, and you resent her for it. Now you see your father the way she sees, but it's not the real way you see him, right? And so boys that are becoming homosexuals and stuff, they resent the mother for imposing her will on them. And sometimes the mother don't have to say, "Oh, your father is an alcoholic. Your father beat me," or whatever, right? Her spirit, because it's spirit to spirit, the children can sense that the mother resent the father, and they will resent that as well. And so when these boys resent their mother, they take on her identity. The spirit of the mother make a home in them, and it's a feminine spirit. And so they feel for a man exactly what a woman does. They're horny for men, right? But it's exactly what their mother would feel. And that's why and so they go out into the world, and the world says, "Oh, you're a homosexual, you're gay, and that's fine. The Lord made you that way." It's not true. And so that's why I'm telling these kids now, don't identify with that. Don't think that that's who you are. That's what you do because you're in a fallen state. And go and forgive your mother. She couldn't help herself, and God will forgive you and take away that female spirit identity and give you back your identity that you had before you were traumatized by your mother.
I mean, just like that. I mean, how it sounds so simple when you put it like that.
It is. It's very simple, but the world has made it difficult. Even churches make it difficult. They don't know that. Even God said, if you have problem with someone, go and forgive them, and I will forgive you. He didn't say go and ask for forgiveness. Go and admit you're wrong for hating or being angry at them, and he will forgive you. And that's all it takes. When you realize you're wrong for resenting, get to know yourself, realize you're wrong, that you can't help yourself. It helps you to understand that your parents couldn't help themselves. And so you will apologize for resenting them. Nothing that you've done, but for resenting them. Then you can have a free life. So the homosexuals, that's not who they are. It wasn't created by God. It's a spirit that made a home in them that came from the mother.
So you blame moms for gay kids.
And the reason for that, and it's not the mother's fault either, because she's doing the best she can. She doesn't understand what's going on in her life either.
She's unloading all of her stuff. Like kids can't handle that like an adult can. Like that's
not at all.
Yeah, you got to talk to a therapist or your girlfriends or something. Like it's not fair to unload all your adult issues like onto your kid.
It's wicked because kids can't handle that. That's why parents should not make their older kids raise their children. They should not put that on them. They're not ready for that. And they're not mature enough. Even parents are failing at it. How do you expect your child to be able to do it? And you're not doing a good job yourself, right? Wow. And so I want to just say to the folks, don't identify. There are people who are alcoholics, what they call alcoholics and drug addicts. And so they go to the alcoholic meeting, and the alcoholic, the head of the program, saying, "What's your name?"
Yeah, it's how you introduce yourself. Yeah.
My name is Johnny, and I'm an alcoholic. Everybody go, "Hey, Johnny, welcome." And then the rest of your life, you need the program. You need somebody that you need to call. I'm about to get drunk. That's not the way it should be. You're not an alcoholic. You're not a drug addict. You are in a fallen state, been turned away from your father. And if you just realize that, you can overcome those spirits that's made a home in you.
It's almost like you're saying like these labels create an attachment with the disorder or the addiction.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's like you said before, alcoholic, like lie, you're a liar, you're an addict.
Yeah.
And do you see a relation between that? And now I feel like in culture, there's this huge rise in pronouns. Like there's this obsession with call me a they, call me a he, she, which we weren't seeing even a few years ago. What do you attribute to that?
It's the children of the lie are lying to others in order to control them. Because once you put a title to it, you start to identify with that title, then you believe the liar that made up the title. That's what happened with this word racism. No such thing as racism, right? We knew before it was a spiritual battle between good and evil, but the liars took over and they started calling it race. And so the blacks and some of the liberal whites are identified with it as a race issue when it's really a spiritual issue. So when you drink, all you're doing, because you're in a fallen state, you're trying to make yourself feel better. You're trying to deal with life. You're looking for something to help you deal with life. So it may become drugs or it may become homosexuality or whatever. It's like a way to survive in the world, but you really don't survive. You suffer, right? And so if you don't identify with it, just know that it's a spirit that's in you and it's not you. Then you can overcome it. God will take it away from you.
Now, is this one of the ideas that you get the most flack for? You know, your ideas about sexuality, or are there other ideas of yours that you get even more pushback from?
Well, I'm called Uncle Tom and the N-word simply because Black people don't want to hear the truth. And then some women, most women don't want to hear the truth. Some do. I get a lot of calls from women, but most women don't want to hear the truth. So they say, I hate women. They say I'm a misogynist.
Misogynist.
Like yeah. And then the homosexuals say I'm homophobic, all kind of crap. But I understand that they can't see and it's not personal. They can't help it. So I don't resent them for it. I still have to put the truth out there because there are some people around the world who are seeking the truth. And when they hear it, awakens something in them and then they're free. So I don't take it personal when people fight against me. Matter of fact, I have the Coon Award.
Oh, wow.
This is the Plantation Celebration Award. This is a Coon Award. Now, you know I must be doing something right.
Who gave that to you?
Some Black person with organization or something. I forgot who. But I've won the Coon Award several times. One time I was beat out by another Black person, but what they're saying is, I hate hearing the truth. You don't have a right to tell the truth. They're trying to stop me. But I love God with all my heart, soul, and might, along with nothing else. And I love my neighbor as myself. I love my country. I am an American. I'm not African American, all that crap. I don't have an afro. I have an Amerifro.
Yeah, it's almost like a military haircut.
There are no African drums beating in my chest. The American guitar playing in my heart. Grew up on born and raised on a plantation. Black as the ace of spades, but 100% American. And I'm not going to sit back and just let the children of the lie take the country away from me without a good fight.
Yeah, and it seems like if you boil down what you're preaching about, it's love, it's forgiveness, it's self-responsibility. And if you are someone who is working on those things or embodies those traits, then I don't think they're going to be mad at you. You're not going to trigger anything inside them.
That's right. It awakens them. It doesn't cause anger. I hear from men and women all the time. I do counseling every day. We have the best counseling service on this side of heaven. And I counsel with men and women around the world. It's the same problem everywhere. And it's not about race, even though the liars have told them that it is. It's really it's a spiritual thing. They need to be born of the Father. They need to return to the Father. So they have to forgive their mothers. She's done the best, and grandmothers. They've done the best they can do, and return to the fathers. Meaning, don't resent your father. So even if you don't hang out with him, you don't have to have lunch and stuff like that. Just don't resent him, because when you resent your earthly father, you can never know God. Men are the image of God. They're sons of God. They've just been turned away from him. So when you hate the son, you hate the father. So forgive your fathers and you'll be fine. And mothers.
Interesting. It sounds like, is this what you are going, part of what you're doing for the 11th annual men's conference in Orlando, Florida? This is for the Brotherhood Organization of a New Destiny Bond?
Yes. Normally we hold the conferences here in LA on Father's Day weekend, which is in June. But I started Men's History Month. August is Men's History Month. And so now we are making our conferences a part of Men's History Month. The whole August is Men's History Month. So this year we're doing it down in Florida, Orlando, Florida, August 14th. And it's for men only. But the following day, the 15th, we're going to have a church service for everybody. It's amazing church. And so I want the people to go to rebuildingtheman.com, rebuildingtheman.com for tickets to that event. They're selling fast, so I urge the people to go. But we got to bring all men, we're about all men, all ages, back to their natural state of being. Otherwise, it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. The world will not get better until men return to their natural state of being, because women were not created to lead. It's not in them. Men were created to lead, and it's not in the woman to lead. Look how messed up the Black community is because the women took over. Look how when the churches have been taken over by women, the church is weak. The country is weak now because women are taking over. Look at the Democratic Party.
Oh, God. It's a mess. Yeah.
And even the Republican Party, as the women are taking over the Republican Party, it's becoming a mess. You can hardly tell the difference between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party because the men are not leading the way. The women are. And it's not in the woman nature to lead.
And it's like, yeah, some women are good leaders, but generally, I mean, definitely just from knowing myself, like, yeah, I would choose not to lead. Like, there's a lot of things I'm really good at, but like, yeah, I definitely feel at ease when like, you know, like usually when my boyfriend takes the lead on something, or I don't know what it is. It's got to be just like an innate set of skills. Like I'm super empathetic. I notice when things are dirty, but like I don't know. If it were up to me to lead, I would be like, I would be freaking out. When he
doesn't lead, you call him a beta male.
Right.
And you don't wake up then. We have to realize the man came from God. The male is created in the image of God, and the female is created in the image of man. And so the woman is supposed to look up to the man, which she should have been doing while growing up, looking up to her father. But the mother made sure that didn't happen. So the woman should look up to...
Why? Does that come from jealousy? Like that kids get more attention, or I don't know.
The women, the spirit of the woman, which is the spirit of Satan, is jealous.
These could all be great T-shirts, Jesse.
The spirit of the woman, which is the spirit of Satan, is jealous of the spirit of the man, which is the spirit of God. And so there's an enmity between men and women because of that spirit that's in the woman. It wants to destroy the image of God. And that's why, it hate the image of God. It hate men because they represent God. And that's why this attack is up on the male. They want that spirit wants to destroy them, and they're using the woman to do it.
The future is female.
I know. That's a scary notion.
It's the future already. And now the future is she-male. No, that's a bad
right.
joke.
Yep. That's so true. Because women are emotional and they feel sorry for everything that's wrong. Oh, you want to be a lesbian? Oh, you can be a lesbian. That's fine. Oh, you want to be a radical Black that commit crimes on the white people? That's fine. Racism. But men would not tolerate that if they had overcome their mothers.
Yeah, it's interesting that there was like kind of an assault on masculinity the last few years leading up to where we are now. Like masculinity, like I always say, like I'll take toxic masculinity over no masculinity.
That's right. That's right. And unfortunately, over the years, they have destroyed the millennial men for the most part. They have turned them into beta males. They weaken them. They're afraid to speak up. I know situations where these guys are dating girls and the girl cursed them out. She slapped them and they let her. Ain't no way in the world I'm going to let a woman hit me. If she hit me, she going down.
Nobody should be hitting anybody. Yeah.
Right. That's right. But the men have been taught, don't hit the woman. Your body, you're stronger than the woman. And that's brought out the worst in the woman. Because she know that if he hit her back, he's going to jail, right? So what I'm telling the guy to do now, as soon as a woman hit you or yell at you, call the cops, put them in jail, and leave them there. Don't get them out. Then
Wow.
Then the woman will understand that these laws that they are made against men is not fair. So just use the laws against them, and they'll see what's happening.
Interesting. So what kind of person, if someone's listening to this and they're like, should I go to this men's conference? Who is this conference really good for?
All men, because all men are dealing with the same thing. It doesn't matter how rich or poor, how white or black or Chinese or Asian or Filipino or Mexican. I stayed up all night to get a Mexican. It doesn't matter. It's for all men because we are pointing them back to their identity. We're showing them how to overcome that female identity, return to their fathers, so that they can start leading the way in the family, in the schools, in government. And I guarantee you peace will come back upon earth if the men return, overcome mama and return to their fathers.
Do you feel like that idea ultimately is why you get so much, I guess, backlash from the Black community, or is it many different issues?
Absolutely. Black people, not all, but most, not all, but most, they love blaming someone else for their problems. And they've gotten away with it, and they've gotten material things. Look at the Black community. They've gotten material things from it. So it's ego feeling, but it's not the real deal. That's not what bring you peace, right? And so they don't want me to remind them that they are wrong. They want to believe that white people are against them and that racism exists because it has benefited them in a material way. But their generation after them are only going to get worse instead of getting better because they're evil. They have anger. Anyone who has anger is evil.
Why do you think that Black conservative voices are so shunned by the media?
Because they don't want Black people to hear the truth. They need Black people to be acting out and carrying on and burning down buildings and knocking out white people and killing one another and all that. So they can cry racism. They can cry government programs. They want to eventually turn America into a socialist society. And if Black people wake up, they won't be able to do that because they need someone to lead that they can use for destruction. And if Blacks were to wake up, they would not be able to use Black for that purpose. So that's why they don't want any Black conservative telling the truth, because it might cause one radical Black to start thinking for themselves. Then it would be over for socialism.
What things do you think the Black community needs to first and foremost unplug from to start this process of, I guess, healing?
Amazing question. They need to take a look at themselves. They need to know thyself, and they would see what's going on. They would see that it's a spiritual battle. They would see that it started in the home, and that the Black so-called leaders and the liberal white politicians aligned to them, that they are being used for personal gain and power. But they got to pull away from that Blackness and take a look at the real self so they can overcome it. They will overcome it if they take an honest look at themselves. They need to become individuals again rather than a tribe from Africa.
Right, because it's, I mean, to live your life thinking that that racism is driving the car. It's like, well, that's kind of a permanent setting there. It's like, well, you're never going to change your skin color. So I guess this is a life sentence here.
That's right. And if you notice, in most, if not all, the major cities where Blacks are in control, like in control of the government, in control of the police departments, city councils, the school, it's nothing but chaos. Black on Black crime out of control, little children being killed by other Blacks, the carjacking. Look at Chicago, for example, with this far left liberal radical fat Black.
And she's a lesbian.
And her city, as mayor of that city, it has gotten way worse than it was before she took over. She says nothing about it. And she acts as though it's not happening. And if she mentioned it, it's about racism. They're doing nothing about Black on Black violence, right? But the moment one white person does anything to a Black, when all of a sudden it's a blown up big deal. But they can care less about what's happening to their so-called own color of people. So it's not about racism. It's about power and wealth.
Why do prominent
And
Black
this woman,
leaders?
let me just
Oh,
add,
Lori, yeah.
this woman, Laura Lightfoot, said that she was no longer going to grant interviews to white reporters.
Yeah, that just came out. It's pretty unbelievable.
And the people are going along with it. She need to be fired. She need to be, if a white person has said that no longer granted interviews to people of color or Black people, that white person
They'd
be
be
out of
gone.
there fast. But this woman is getting away with it.
Yeah, it's wild. Why do you think that prominent Black community leaders avoid looking at, the problems within their own communities?
Because they don't love Black people at all. They want them down and out. They want them killing one another. They need them to be that way so it keep them in so-called position of power and wealth.
Wow.
When they cry racism, they're pretending that they care about Black people. When they cry police brutality, they are pretending that they care about Black people. And because most Blacks are in a fallen state, they don't recognize that they're being used by people like Laura Lightfoot and this wicked witch from the West with the low IQ, Maxine Waters.
Oh my God. Whoever her plastic surgeon is doing a great job. I can't believe she's in her 80s.
And so the Blacks don't see that they are being used because these people use certain words to pretend that they are fighting for the Blacks when they're really fighting against the Blacks.
Or like they're just looking out for themselves.
Yes, absolutely. Maxine Waters said once at a church here in LA that she was, and this was at the time when Newt Gingrich and all of them was in control of the government. I don't know if they've ever been in control, but they were in control. And Maxine Waters said that the Republican want to put Blacks back. Oh, she said that the Republicans want to tear down the projects. They don't want the Blacks living in projects, but she's not going to let that happen. Not only she named some of the projects in Los Angeles, and she said, not only am I going to make sure you stay in the projects, I'm going to build new ones for you. And the people are so blind because they're thinking that that's love. They applaud it. Praise the Lord. Maxine is going to build new projects for us, right? While she's living in a $3 to $4 million home, living house to house, using the Blacks, they think she loved them because she cried racism.
It's like the same thing with like what you said before about like the unhealthy mom. Like you're not pushing them out of the nest so that they can learn and thrive on their own.
Exactly. And so the Blacks got to become individuals. They got to start thinking for themselves. They got to question what's going on. They have to look at the people that are so-called leaders of them, and they got to see that their lives are much better than mine. How is that? If white people are so racist, how come these people, they're living in fine homes? They're living in amazing, most of these people even live in white communities. They're living in amazing communities. Their children are going to private schools, and like Barack Obama, the father Messiah, he a big mama, Michelle. Their kids are going to the best schools. They live in Martha's Vineyard. They built a house, they rented or bought a house in Washington, D.C. and built a fence around it. So racism is so prevalent. Why are they getting away? Why aren't they telling them how they were able to overcome racism instead of encouraging the hatred between the races?
Right. And you look at like Oprah too. Like she's a huge success. What is she that nobody can ever accomplish what she's accomplished? Like there's plenty of, Black young female reporters.
Yeah, and she's one of the worst human beings on this side of heaven. Just pure evil. And she's keeping the Blacks down rather than telling them how they can do it. Work hard. Do what you got to do. Be an individual. But she is controlling them by giving this false idea of racism as well. Oprah is evil. She's not a good person.
Yeah, it seems like, if there's any Black person listening to this, like just take note if someone's telling you like how oppressed you are and how much racism you're facing, but then you look at them and like they're living pretty good. Maybe that's not your role model. Maybe that's not who you should be taking your cues from.
And that's what happened to me, Chrissy, when I moved to LA. I wasn't raised that way at all, but I moved here at 18. And I started listening to Jesse Jackson and all those other people, Louis Farrakhan, evil Louis Farrakhan. And they were saying, is about racism. It's about this and that. As a young person, because no one was opposing it, I believed into that lie. And when I believed it, I started thinking all white people are racist. If white people disagree with me, I thought it because they hated me because of my color and all that. And I started, after a while, I started to question things. Well, if white people hate me or they hate black people, how come Jesse Jackson and all those folks are doing very well? Their kids have the best job. They're going to the best schools. And when I started to question things, that's when I discovered that I was being lied to. And then my life changed.
And how old were you when you came to that realization?
I was about 30 something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had gone through hell because anyone who has anger go through hell. I smoked pot for a while. You ever smoke pot?
I used to, and now I just smoke CBD. No, yeah. Well, I used to smoke pot, and I would be like out to lunch. I wouldn't get anything done. Like I just like it's fun. You're floaty. You're like, but you don't get anything done. At least for me, I just could. I don't know.
And the reason I smoked it because when I had that anger, I had conflict within me, and I was trying to make myself feel better. And pot does make you feel better, but it lowers your consciousness. You don't really get anything done. And it wasn't until I was able to overcome the anger that I was able to get away from the pot. And I have an amazing life now, not because of what I do, but because I have peace within myself. I have no fear, no doubt, no worry. I'm not in my head thinking about tomorrow, worried about yesterday. I see that it's a spiritual battle. It has nothing to do with color.
When have you always had a good relationship with God, or did you similarly, when you were looking at the black leaders and changing your mind on that, did you have a similar kind of time in your 30s where you became closer with God?
When I was growing up, I grew up as a Baptist because my grandparents and my parents were Baptists. So I've always been like involved in some form of religion, but I never, as a kid, I knew God. But when I was traumatized, I forgot him. And when I forgave, though, when I really realized my resentment came from my mother trying to turn me away from my father, and I went and forgave her, it was the hardest thing I ever had to do. And I did this at 38. It was the hardest thing I ever had to do. I was shaking in my boots because I didn't know if she's going to overreact or what was going to happen. Because we are afraid of the person that we resent. They control us. But I realized I resented her for turning me away from my father or trying to. And so I told her, I'm sorry for resenting you. And at that point, my life changed. And I did the same thing with my father. I found out why didn't he protect me from her. And he told me, and everything she had said about him was a lie. And that's why you can't believe what mothers say about fathers. They won't tell the truth about them. Fathers love their children. They just can't deal with the mother. But the mother give you an impression that your father left you. And it wasn't true, right? And so it's that point when I forgave them, God forgave me, that I have a real relationship with him. I return to him. Now I get my identity from him. And his identity is of love. I hate no one. I hold no grudges. I wish all people well, even my enemy.
When you say you were traumatized, is that something related to your mom?
Yeah, my mother, what happened was my father and my mother were dating when they were teenagers, and they had sex, and she got pregnant. And when my mother told him about it, he like, no, that's not my baby. I can't make no baby. What happened? They had sex standing up, and my father thought you could get a woman pregnant if you have sex.
And it's just the babies fall out. Yeah, gravity.
And so he denied it. My mother became angry and didn't want anything else to do with him, and she didn't want me to have anything to do with him. But what happened? She married my stepfather before I was born, so I wouldn't be born out of wedlock. In those days, it was embarrassing for a black woman to have babies out of wedlock. And so if she didn't get pregnant, the woman would have to either marry the man that got her pregnant or another guy, or go away and hide until she had that baby.
Wow.
But now you can get pregnant by every Tom, Dick, and Harry, and no shame in it, right? They're proud of having children out of wedlock. And so I wasn't born out of wedlock, but my mother became angry at my father, and she didn't want me to have anything to do with him. And my father, you can sneak around and see me anyway. And so I knew he was my father. And I had that emptiness. I had that longing for my father. I knew that void I had was the longing of my father as a kid. And so when I went to him, my life became amazing because he and I developed a really amazing relationship, and it's just been paradise ever since.
Wow.
My
And
father expired recently, and it feels like he did not die. His body is gone, but he and I are one along with God.
yeah, he's still with you, and everything that he passed on to you lives on, and that's
Yeah,
how I feel about my mom. It's like they, our family members don't leave us. Like they're still, they're still there, even though
yeah.
it's sad though because you miss them
Do
physically.
you love your father?
I do. I do. I feel it's more like the thing you said before. Like he's like, yeah, you're good, and I think that's why he's not trying to call a lot. And he's very much doing his own thing, has a new girlfriend. Like,
Oh, that's terrible.
but I mean, my mom died, so he just like found somebody else to hang
But
out with.
have you gone and apologized for resenting him?
No.
What? Well, you don't love him then. If you love
Um,
him, you will forgive him.
yeah, I don't think he knows I'm resentful.
Oh,
So
he
then
knows.
he
And,
knows.
and even if he didn't know, you know, and you need to be free. And the only way you're gonna be free is to stop resenting him, and God will forgive you. Just say, "Hey, Dad, I'm sorry for resenting you, for whatever he did, and I realize now you can help it, and I'm wrong for resenting you, and God will forgive you. Then you'll be free, even if he doesn't apologize or anything. It's not. He doesn't have to know. You need to know because it's for you, not for him.
Right. But what if he's like, "What are you resentful for?" And I'll be like,
And
"How much
you
time do you
tell
have?"
him because most fathers don't know that they're don't understand why their children resent them. They don't know the trick that the mother has played up on them. They don't know that while they were out working, the mother was scheming and turning their children away from them.
Oh,
And so when the kids are acting out, most of the fathers don't understand it, and they know that you're acting them just like your mother. And because they can't deal with the mother, they can't deal with the children because that spirit of the mother is in the children. And the kids are treating the father the way the mother treat him because they have identified with the mothers, and the mothers don't understand that. So your father don't understand why you resent him because in his mind he hasn't done anything for you to resent him, not to you.
right. That makes sense. So what do you say to men who, maybe they have a child with another woman who maybe they can't stand, but um, but they still should try to be in the kid's life, like how do they help to overcome like maybe their bad feelings towards the mom to try and still be there for their
Well,
child?
most fathers want to be there for their children, but the mother won't let them. She make even if they went to court and got custody, visitation right, the mother, due to her wickedness, she'll make sure that the father won't be able to see him. And if the father able to see his children, she'll put a time limit on it. She
Hmm.
will tell him what he can and cannot do. She will, when the kids are with her, she will constantly be trying to turn the kids away from him because
Ugh.
she doesn't want the kids to identify with the father. So it's difficult. What I suggest to the fathers that they become right and do right. And when they do see their kids, they're going to deal with love with their kids, right? Perfect love. And the kids will be able, as they're getting older, identify that the father loved them and it's the mother who's trying to turn them away. And they would love their fathers and they would be fine. But, and a lot of times, most times, the mother, whatever the father loved, and that's what the mother tried to control. So mothers know that fathers love their children, and she will destroy those children, trying to destroy the father, because anything that you love is what she would use against you. And so a lot of times the father may have to let the children go because the mother would destroy his children just to get back at him.
Wow. Do you feel like there's a connection between that and abortion? The idea of like destroying.
100%. Women who hate men hate their children. And so they'll destroy the children to get back at the man. They have no love. Women don't have love. And and God forbid, and just imagine a child in your body, and you would kill that child. You know it has to be of hate and not love.
Whew. Yeah, I've
And
never had
Satan
that, but I can't imagine. Yeah.
yeah. And Satan give you all kind of reason to do it. Oh, you need to get an education. You need to be your own woman.
Right.
You need to be like a man.
And culture supports that, you know, like you
Right.
need to have your time. You have to get your useless bachelor's degree. Yeah.
Satisfy your ego. So that's why they would do it. And that's why I'm telling women too, they have to forgive their mothers for turning them away, because they're taking on their mother's identity. They're not themselves. And so forgive their mothers for turning them away from their fathers. Forgive the father for being too weak to protect them. And then they can start a new generation. And do not let your mother come to your house. Don't let her babysit your kids until she overcome her anger, because exactly what she's done to you, she'll do it to your kids. She has no love.
That's some powerful stuff. Yeah, that just shows you the power of anger, especially unexamined anger, and how damaging it can be. Yeah, to cross
Because
the
there is no
generations.
love in anger. Anger is evil. You can't control it. You have to overcome it. You cannot. It's wicked. It's a spirit that made a home in you. You have to overcome it.
Jesse, where can people find you, follow you, and check out your work? I know you have a jessieleepeterson.com is your website, and also you have the Jesse Lee Peterson Show Monday through Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. Pacific, and then The Fallen State every Friday.
TheFallenState.tv. It's we present new episodes every Friday at 12 noon Pacific time. And but it's TheFallenState.tv. They can go to my web at rebuildingaman.com or call or JessieLeePeterson.com.
And church Sundays at 11 a.m. Pacific.
Amazing church. Have you ever watched one yet?
No, I haven't. I've watched the other ones, but I'm very
curious. You gotta
curious.
watch it. It's gonna blow your mind. It's gonna set you free.
Okay.
So,
I'm
Chrissie,
sold.
will you go and apologize to your father for resenting him?
I think I'll have to. And Father's Day is coming up, so sounds like I know.
And don't have any expectation. Just know that you resent him, right? So, for your soul's sake, for your freedom,
right?
You know, hey, Father, I'm sorry for resenting you. And if he asks why, if there's some reason why, tell him why. You may have done it with your mother's identity, because a lot of times when the children look like the father, the mother hates you for that too. She'll punish you.
Yeah, well, I definitely look a lot like my mom, so
she'll punish you if you look like the father. But just say, I'm sorry for resenting you. I'm wrong for resenting you. If you apologize, fine. If he doesn't, fine. You forgive him and God will forgive you. And you're going to walk on water, Chrissie, because I can tell you're a decent person. You just need to overcome that anger by forgiving your father and your mother. Your mother could not help herself.
Right. True. Because that's what forgiveness is all about. It's for you. It's like not for the other person.
That's right. Absolutely. And
Jesse,
amazing.
Yeah, you're so great. Thank you so much for coming on. Did you mention where people can follow you on social media?
Do I have a social media thing? Oh, were you saying in there? Oh, JLP Talk.
Yes. JLP Talk on Twitter.
Yes.
Okay, great. Perfect. Thank you so much, Jesse. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm going to put the link to the men's conference below in the details so you guys can sign up. And it's August 14th in Orlando, Florida. Jesse, thank you so much for coming on.
Amazing. It was an amazing discussion. I totally enjoyed this.
Oh, good. Oh, I'm so glad.
And next time your boyfriend is weak, if he doesn't make the decision, guide you, call him a beta male.
Sounds good. I'll get a beta. A shirt that says beta, and I'll be like, put it on. Beta.
That's right.
Thanks, Jesse.
Thank you, Chrissie.
Bye.